A very good morning to all of you. Today we have joined here to discuss about demystifying dyslexia and intervention with our clinical expert, who is a certified dyslexia therapist and has been working in the field of special needs for over 22 years. She is Rama Tandon. She has been working with Vasant Valley School for past 16 years and also runs her own center called Center for Dyslexia in Horskhas. She has a double master's, one of them being Masters of Art in Psychology. She's a member of ALTA, the Academic Language Therapist Association USA. She's also the international partner of the organization Noticeability USA and their representative in India. She is a part of their remote learning committee as well. She conducts workshops all over in India as well as outside India for parents and teachers alike. She also has a YouTube channel where she has uploaded over 60 videos for teachers and parents to understand dyslexia and tips related to intervention and more. So, Ms. Rama Tandon, over to you. You can present your quick piece of information that you have. And I hope this session helps out our parents and experts who have joined here for this webinar.
Thank you, Priyadarshini. Very good morning to all of you. And I only want to say that in case there is a power cut here at my place, I will come back in 2 minutes. So give me 2 to 3 minutes to join back. Other than that, I'm quite excited to be here and also, be able to answer any questions you have. In case I'm not able to answer any questions, I will get back to you maybe later. My details will definitely be at the end of the slide. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint which I have made where I have sort of put in a couple of good videos and some reading material as well that you can actually use for your child. Let me start my PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to introduce you with a video of a famous personality and what he says, and he mentions the most important word that a child should learn.
One more of your favorite words. Well, when a kid asked me that as a gathering in a school in Trivandrum, I told him the word that I would introduce him to was to read. And he'd come across his own words. I wouldn't have to spoon feed him a word. But then one more of your favorite words. One more.
Okay, sorry.
Of your favorite.
I don't want it to be repetitive, so I'll go to the next one. Now, if you see, the word read is actually a very scary word for children with learning disabilities. But having said that, many a times, I'm going to share with you the success stories of people, adults who have overcome this disability and have reached they are very successful in their field, and especially these people like what's happened to my now there's this person called Jack Horner. Jack Horner, when he was in school, he was extremely dyslexic, but he was very creative, and he was hopelessly, his English teacher was very, very upset with him and would never give him good grades because of spellings. But today, Jack Horner is actually the most powerful, influential person in the field of paleontologist. He is the technological advisor to Steven Spielberg, to Jurassic Park, and Steven Spielberg is also dyslexic. And did you know that Steven Spielberg, at the age of 13, started making movies? And he used to record 30 minutes movies and show them at his place, where his sister would serve popcorn for 25 cents. Then we have someone called Charles Schwab. I've also visited Charles Schwab's Learning Center in Stanford, and he is also a very famous person. He's also a very successful person, and he has dyslexia. You must have known about Richard Branson. Richard Branson is the one who owns Virgin Atlantic Airlines. Now, the very good thing about dyslexic people, individuals, whether they are children or adults, they are very creative. So I must share the story with you about Richard Branson. This was about 20, 30 years ago. He was stranded at the airport and he wanted to meet his lady who was at the British Virgin Airlines island. And he had booked a flight. Now, unfortunately, that evening, the flight got cancelled and he was very upset. So were the other passengers were very upset. So what he did was he actually chartered a flight and held a placard in his hand saying flights to Virgin Airlines, $39. And that's how the idea came. And he reached his destination and he started the airlines. And this is at a very young age. Now, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Shark Tank. It's a serial where there are these 6 people over here, and 50% of the Shark Tankers, that is Damon, John, Barbara Corcoran, and Kevin O'Leary, 50% of these are dyslexic. So what I'm saying is 3 out of 6 people are dyslexic. And they are very successful. They are roughly, you can see, they are estimated, I mean, their net worth is estimated for more than $8-9 billion per person. Now, I want to share a short video of these people where they are talking about how they are successful, not despite the fact or because of dyslexia, they are successful, because the way their brains function is very different from the way our brain functions. So when I'm going to start a video, I'll have to stop my video.
I started talking about the fact that that I've discovered that I was dyslexic, and I did it on purpose because I think it's important for other, especially young kids who've been told that they're dyslexic, to see that that successful people can get through it, and that if they follow their particular dreams, they follow what they're good at, that they could be. They can be even more successful at what they're good at than others. So, and there are so many people like myself who've excelled in their individual professions who have been dyslexic. So I think it's really important that people who are dyslexic get out and talk about it.
It's the definition of what's stupid and what's not stupid. I mean, some people are good at conventional, mathematics, or conventional, good at sort of pidgin learning French, or and there are other people that are good at other things, and I think I believe I'm good at other things.
When I think for me, being dyslexic, what I got accustomed to is taking ridicule. Not a bad trait to have through the rest of life. You could take a lot of hits and you're kind of used to it. You've had that injury early, But I think the enormous plus of having a learning disability is you become accustomed to being an outsider. And once you get into business, if you have a business of your own, you become an innovator. A little different spin on the same thing. One's a terrible outsider, but then you become an innovator. And if you can't learn anything at school, you got to think of something. And I sat all day long and used my imagination. And I could think of an idea a minute and apply it to work. And so, tremendous gains. But I wish somebody tells you when you're a kid that it's going to turn out great.
I'm not afraid of dyslexia at all, nor should anybody else be. I said in the beginning, and I'll tell you again, hindsight, it was my gift. I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have dyslexia. And it opened a whole lot of doors for me. It challenged me. It got me outside of that box. I didn't want to be labeled. It taught me to stand up and use my voice and be proud of who I am. And I do. If you look at history, if you look at the people you've interviewed and the studies they've done, I think it's a great gift. I think it's a wonderful form of intelligence. I really, really do.
I started talking, when I discovered that I was dyslexic, and
Sorry, I
and I
don't
did
want
it
to
on
show
purpose
this
because I
again.
think
I'm just going to get out of the
it's
video.
important for.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. Sorry, 1 minute. Now, you must be wondering, all of you, that I've only showed you people who are successful outside India. But recently, where I work at Pasand Valley School, we had Baman Arani, who came and talked about his life. And he is also dyslexic. He also had learning difficulties. And you see where he's reached right now. I mean, nobody would even imagine. What happens in India is, I've noticed that people are scared to disclose that they have a learning disability, that there's a problem. And maybe when you have kids, you don't want to do that. But as you grow, you realize that you have reached where you've reached because of dyslexia. There is this book that I would like you to read. It's called the Dyslexia Advantage. And there is a magazine also, which you could get online, where it shows where you'll see the Charles Schwab, Richard Branson, John Chambers, who was the ex-CEO of Cisco, is also dyslexic. And in Dyslexic Advantage, it talks about 4 mind strengths. The strengths, which is like an acronym, which is M is material reasoning, interconnected reasoning, narrative reasoning, and dynamic reasoning. It talks about all the 4 skills that children with learning disabilities have. Now, I'm going to give you an example. You must have noticed your child who's dyslexic has this ability to connect 2 extremely different things together and come up with something new. So I'm going to tell you a little story. Imagine that there is a lady who is, she has to get someplace. It starts raining. She's waiting. She doesn't have a taxi. She doesn't have a car, but she's waiting for a cab. And there is someone somewhere else who is a young boy who has his license, who has a car, but he doesn't have a job. Now, you put these 2 things together, and what was the outcome? We have Ola and Uber. So the lady gets to wherever she has to go. The man has got a job, and that's how it has, come together. This is one of the skills that dyslexic have. They can put 2, different things together and come up with something new. The also other skill that they have is narrative reasoning, which means they are so good at telling stories. That is the reason we have famous directors like Steven Spielberg. They are very good in music. They are very good in art. We have Tom Cruise. We have Whoopi Goldberg. We have Muhammad Ali. We have, I could name all these people who have reached where they've reached because of the strengths that they have because of dyslexia. Because yes, the brain, they have a different kind of brain. It's not abnormal. It's different. And we people who, I'm saying we people, when I say we is, I'm talking about parents, teachers, principals, friends, family. We don't understand that they have a different kind of brain. Different is not necessarily disabled. It is just the way they think is different. So I would really highly recommend if you could read this book called Dyslexic Advantage. There are other 2-3 skills. If I start talking about, then I will not be able to complete what I really want to share with you. So please read this book. Now, what are learning disabilities? Now, learning disabilities, you've heard of dyslexia, you've heard of dysgraphia, dyscalculia. Yes? Sorry. So, and they all come under one umbrella. I'm going to just share a little bit about each to give you an idea, but we'll talk more about dyslexia. Now, dysgraphia is basically about handwriting. What happens here is it's not just handwriting, but it also talks. I want to share about the fine motor skills, the language difficulties that the child has if the child has dysgraphia. You will notice that the way they hold their pen is different, the pencil. They get very tired when they do any writing activity. They will not be able to understand, given a page, suppose the page is like this, and they have the entire page to write their answer. They may start from here, and the spacing between the words will not be accurate, will not be appropriate. They will complete the answer in 2-3 lines. When they know that there's a whole space here, they will try and squeeze everything together. They also have a great difficulty in putting their thoughts on paper. If you speak to them, it's all correct. But when they write down, they'll forget what they themselves had spoken to you about. So one thing what you could do as a parent is very important is get those pencil grips. Secondly, try and encourage that they write cursive. Why am I saying cursive? Is because when they write, the flow of thoughts, research has shown that when the child writes cursive, the flow of thought just goes on. But the minute they write print, they have to stop and then write, stop and then write. And that comes in the way of their thinking. For the younger children, I really, really recommend and suggest that what you do is, instead of asking them to write, why don't you take and write for them? Like if there is a draft, help them with their draft, help them with their work, written work. And I don't think it's cheating, because what happens is, when this child who has dysgraphia, dyslexia, or any other kind of learning disabilities, they get very tired thinking of that, I have to think, I have to write, I have to see that the spellings are correct. It's very difficult for them. So if they have some school homework, you write for them so that they can, they're very creative, they can speak a lot. So once they know, okay, mama is writing for them, it will help them with their work and their spellings. And I also request the teachers, I always tell them that please don't mark them for their spellings. If they make mistakes, it's okay, because the content is what is more important. Then I'm going to talk about dyscalculia. Also, remember, I used to have a student, because he had dysgraphia. Every time he wrote, he used to have these corns on his fingers, and it used to hurt. And sometimes parents think that, I think my child is lying. It cannot be. So what I suggest is you also use, things like this for their hand pressure, so that once they write a lot, they can use this and they can sort of release the tension that they have on their fingers. The other thing that I want to talk about is dyscalculia. Now, what happens in dyscalculia? It's not just about numbers. It's not about reversals, that a child is reading 314 as 341. It is also estimation of time, estimation of distance. Like, for example, if an adult who has any kind of learning disability, say he is learning to be a chef, it's highly possible that this adult may have a problem in estimation and whereas measurements of food item is concerned. You will notice that maybe at home, they may not understand, okay, now I'm going to bake a cake. So I have to take, say, 500 grams of flour. How much sugar am I supposed to put? How much the cocoa mix I have to put? It's the estimation. They have a problem with that. They also have a problem with visual spatial, in the sense that you'll notice in school, even at home, these children, when they are sitting, they are not able to understand that there's a lot of space on the bench. They can space themselves and they can sit where, there is space instead of sticking to their partner. And then sometimes the teachers don't understand and they sort of scream. It happens at home. I used to have this kid who used to perpetually have a fight with his sister whenever they get into the car. And the reason being, he would enter the car and sit right in the middle of the seat, not understanding that there's a space on the right side. He can shift and she can sit. The same thing will happen when they're sleeping at night on the bed. They don't understand. It's difficult for them to process. It's actually genuinely difficult. And this happens in younger kids. Of course, it is okay once they grow up, they become a little mature, they understand these things. But here I'm only addressing to those parents who have little kids and they are constantly fighting either in class or either at home because of these reasons. There's another learning disability which comes under this umbrella of learning disabilities called dyspraxia. Now, dyspraxia is basically hand and eye coordination. They may have a problem in tying shoelaces, in putting their paste on the brush, buttoning themselves, because they have a problem with eye and hand coordination. Now, let's get a little deeper into dyslexia. Now, dyslexia, of course, we all say that it's a reading disability where the child can't read. But dyslexia is not same in every child. It comes in different forms. There are three very important problems that I have faced, I have noticed, I've experienced that children with dyslexia have. One is they do not understand the letter and sound relationship. They get confused. They are not able to match the letter to the sound. They are not able to read at the level that the other children read. They have a problem, they have a processing problem where the speed, the accuracy, when they are reading, they read so slowly because they have to put in so much effort that they tend to forget what they have read. So many kids who read in a classroom of, say, 30 kids, 70% of the kids will actually be automatic reader. You may not even have to spend too much effort in teaching them how to read. But it is the 20 or the 30% children who lack and they need a special kind of intervention, which we will come to that later. But they take 5 times, I mean, that's what the research says, that they take 5 times the amount of other children who read. Because they take so much time, many of us, the parents, teachers, we lose patience that, oh my God, he's taking so much time to read. It is so simple. He just read this passage yesterday. He's forgotten it today again. And it is very, very common when your child is reading, say, one page, and he reads one word correctly in the beginning. It's possible, but the same word that comes back in the next page or a paragraph below, he's not going to remember the word. Now, there are a few stages in reading, but what I want to really stress upon is the pre-reading skills. I'll give you an example what happens. When it is a context-based material, like for example, if it's written, my dad is happy. If your child is reading who has dyslexia, I'm going to change the sentence. Suppose it's written, my father is happy. They know that father means dad. They may not be able to read the word father, but they will read it as my dad is happy. So they substitute the words in the context itself because it's relative. For example, it's very often they'll say, I am going, if it's written, I'm going to my house, they will read it as I'm going home. They know what it means. They are not able to recollect that word for home is house. So they get confused. Another thing that is very, very likely to happen is when the child with dyslexia is reading, suppose it's written, now this is where I'm talking about orthography, where they don't understand the way the letters are written. They get confused with B, P, Q, Z is like an S sometimes. So if it's written, I had a very heavy brunch. Now, brunch sort of resembles with branch and bench. So they may end up reading as, I had a very heavy bench. And then they realize that no, that's not right. And you will notice many times that these children guess. They are very good at guessing and they are very good at fooling us. I mean, because they are so creative, and sometimes they memorize the entire story. So you will say, oh my God, my child is actually reading. But it's just that he or she has memorized the story so well that you get fooled easily. So let's just go further. Now, is dyslexia lifelong? I get this question a lot. Dyslexia cannot be fixed, cannot be cured. It is lifelong. I'll give you an example of Bomanarani. Now, I just showed you his picture and he talked about it. And now he's an adult. He's almost 61 years old. He's born in 59. Recently, when he was shooting for his movie Dawn, which most of us must have watched, he was given a script and he had to say to Shah Rukh Khan that something, tumhare code ka number hai 37149. And he told us, that whenever the shot was ready, he could not remember the sequence of the numbers. He always used to change the numbers. And because of him, they had to change the script. So dyslexia is lifelong. It comes in many forms. There are many causes, but it will always stay. It cannot be fixed. It cannot be cured, but it can be managed. And that is what we dyslexia therapists do. We help parents, we help children to manage their dyslexia, but it will always stay. Like I have a friend who herself is a special educator, but she's dyslexic. She always has problems whenever she's driving on the road because they have problems with left, right. They have problems with time, yesterday, today, tomorrow. When they are driving on the road, it's difficult for them to look for directions. So if I'm sitting and I'll say, go right. And instead of going right, she'll go left. So these are the issues that they have. Sorry, I'm just going to have some water. And I also would highly recommend if you go on the YouTube video and watch Baman Arani speak about his lifelong struggle and how he overcame it. It's uploaded on our Vasant Valley channel, so you can see his interview for about 1 hour long, what he spoke about it. Now, are dyslexic dumb? Of course not. They are actually more intelligent than us. And I want to share a small clip of what Vamanarani talks about his dyslexia.
Understand numbers, addition, minus, subtraction. And arithmetic was a big no for me. It's called dyscalculia. Teachers will nod in agreement that we are now aware. But till Amir Khan, Are Zami Par, we did not know what dyscalculia or dyslexia was, right? Any teacher would like to just acknowledge that fact that maybe 10, 15 years ago, dyslexia was not something that people were aware of. If you had dyslexia, people used to use a very crude word, and the crude word was duffer. People used to refer to me as duffer. Duffer hai aapka beta. Just actually say that at my face. And I used to find that, what's wrong with these people? There's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with me. Now, I did not understand maths and science, but I did understand literature. Even though, and whenever I went onto the stage, I used to somehow be a little more confident. I went to a speech therapist. My mother sent me to a speech therapist. Now, the thing is, you have to, I want to tell you a little, understand numbers, addition, minus, subtraction. And
so let's get a little deeper into the technical stuff of why do dyslexic take so long to read, and whereas people who are not dyslexic can read automatically. Now, these are the three areas that we need, or when I read anything, these are the 3 areas that will get activated. They light up, like they fire up whenever we are reading. But what happens with children with dyslexia? These 3 areas, they don't get activated, and therefore they are missing. And that is the reason you notice many a times children with dyslexia get very tired, and they may say that my head is hurting, this is too much, I can't read. It is true. They do get tired. Now, I have compared the non-impaired reader with the reader with dyslexia, and this is the difference. These 3 areas are the ones which get activated. In the dyslexic brain, those 2 areas do not get activated. It's all about the wiring of the brain. And I'm sure you must read about this, that how the dyslexic brain is wired differently than us. Over here is the research that shows that this is the frontal area, the red one. And the blue one is where the area where when you provide any kind of intervention, we all know that our brains are plastic. It's neuroplasticity that is at work here. You start providing intervention, you start the therapy, and you'll soon see that the activation starts taking place. Now, the mantra that I follow when I do an intervention with children with dyslexia is this: if I can't learn the way you teach me, can you teach me the way I learn? Now, the example that I've always given is about a kitchen example, where I've said that suppose you have 2 children and they call a friend over for lunch. And I've noticed that children love bhindi a lot. Okay, that's ladyfinger. 2 of your children, one of them likes the bhindi which is cut, the ladyfinger. The other one likes the masale wala bhindi. The person who's coming over also likes the masale wala bhindi. Now, what are you going to do? As a parent, as a mother, you are definitely going to make both the preparations, right? Similarly, in a class full of 30 kids, I always feel that we teachers, therapists are like magicians. We have to have all the tricks required for all the kind of children, in the sense that there is a child who may be an auditory learner. There is a child who may be a visual learner. Many a times children, if you notice, when we have spelling bee, there are children and I actually personally, I hate spelling bee, because my children, and I'm very partial to my kids who have dyslexia, they get completely stressed. And I wish I could just eradicate spelling bee from the junior school competitions, etc. Because I've had mothers call me the previous night that my child is crying because he's not able to learn the spellings. Many a times, even as adults, we notice when we are going to spell a longer word, like say the word is accommodation, and I don't know whether it has a double C or a double M. Till I don't write it, you can't make out. So many children learn that way. They are visual learners, they are auditory learners. There are teachers who are constantly writing. When they are writing, their face is on the board, and they are speaking, looking at the board, not realizing that the child who's sitting there is probably a more visual learner. He's not an auditory learner. He's not paying attention to what she's speaking, but he's paying attention to the board. So that's where the space happens. There is a gap in time. The processing speed is very slow. So they can't learn as fast as the other children can learn. And that is the reason we have to use different methods to teach them, you know. And research has also shown that I was going to put that slide over here, but I sort of forgot that 20% of what we read and 30% of what we hear, 40% of what we see, 50% of what we say, 60% of what we do. We remember only that part of it. But if we do everything together, like we hear, we say, we do, that activity, if we use all the channels, we remember it more. So that is why we use the OG approach. What is the OG approach? Is Orton Gillingham approach. And please read about this. This is a multi-sensory structured language therapy approach where we use all the channels. And I have put it, recently I have uploaded a video where I'm teaching this child sight words. And the way I'm teaching her is by using cards. I've placed them on the floor. So I was teaching her the word the, which is a very common word that they are not able to read or spell. The other word is said, S-A-I-D. And I have used S-A-I-D, I've cut them, I've placed them on the floor, I've asked the child to step on each letter. So S-A-I-D. And that's how she has learned. You should take a look at that video, maybe it'll help you. The other thing they don't remember is because of the rapid naming, that they are not able to quickly get these words, right there, is sight words. It's very difficult for them to memorize the sight words because they cannot break it. Now the word called said, it's very difficult. If I start sort of breaking it sound by sound, it's not going to sound like said. It is d. That is not said. So they have a problem. Words like daughter, come, brother, again, they have problems reading these words. I want to come to this very, very important part of role of parents. Now, what happens is, let me just quickly take you to the next slide because I think I'm going to skip this one where there was a video where I was going to show that it's never too early to read to your child. But I'm going to skip this.
Here you go, Lily. That goofy. You're surprised. What's she licking?
You see how the child is able to understand the expressions or listen to the sounds of the father who's reading to him. If you see this, how do you get your child to read books? There is a parent who's holding the phone, and her child is holding the phone as well. There's a parent who's reading and her child is reading. So when mothers ask me that, or they tell me that mera beta to bilkul hi nahi padta, when I ask him to read, he's just sitting there with the book. It's not going to work. You have to model. So for the younger kids, I always tell them that try to see if you can, take 20 minutes in the day or even 10 minutes. Just go to a room, sit down with the child. You can pretend to read, but at least when he is seeing you that, okay, my mama is also holding a book and reading, he will read. He will read. He will get the practice. Whatever skill you want to develop, you have to see that you practice the same skill at home. Don't we learn? I mean, we speak respectfully to elders. They copy it. They copy the way we speak. In the same way, they will copy you. The minute you start, cultivating this habit in your day-to-day life also, they will read. Monitor. When I'm saying monitor is monitor their gadget time. I have parents, of course, now it's been 10 months, almost a year now, on 25th March, that we have a lockdown and the children are only looking at a screen. Despite the fact that they are looking at the screen, they are constantly looking at a phone or an iPad. That's the source of entertainment. And that is terrible. So please monitor their gadget time. Try and keep a timetable, like, okay, 30 minutes a day, and maybe on weekends, 1 hour, 2 hours. Motivate your child to read by, I have this slide here. If you see, in families where there are siblings, the younger one will always tend to copy the elder one. And if the elder one is doing this, the younger one has to do this. So if the elder one has the habit of reading, definitely the younger one will read. So try and see if you can, make sure that the elder sibling is reading and the younger sibling will also read. Managing dyslexia in the classroom. I hope I'm not running short of time, but let me show you some slides of some examples of how children with dyslexia write. This is one example. Now here the boy is trying to write, I like to play. I like to read. I like to write. I like to, now he wants to say, I like to play with my brother. So he's written here, bro. When I was dictating this, I had asked him and I had helped him with the spelling. He did not spell ferocious himself. The lion is ferocious. If you see here, he wants to write my dad. It's inverted. He's written dab for the B. My dad is a banker. My mother, he has spelt it the way it is, the way the words sound. My mother is a principal of a school. I like hockey. Now, this child, I taught him for about a year or two, but within 6 months, this was the improvement that had happened in his work. This was the writing. I am good in art. I like to read. My mother is a principal. He had learned. This is all because of neuroplasticity. The brain had started making changes. The wiring had started rewiring. And that is the reason one of the very important things that I want to tell parents is please start your intervention as early as possible. The minute you have a doubt that I think there is something wrong, just get help. There's no harm. Maybe your child does not have a learning disability, but if he or she has, then why not get help as early as possible? This is another classic example where you come across children who write reversals. Now, not all children with dyslexia will write reversals. Many do. Very important, if till class 2, your child is still continuing to write like this. If you can see, this is a child in class 2. She's writing capital with lower cases in the middle. Her Z is inverted. Her P is inverted. Her Q is capital. If she writes like this or he writes like this, then that's a red flag. You must get her assessed. This boy, he's written everything so well. If only we could give him a chance and not cut marks on his spellings. I'm going to read it to you what he has written. Once in art class, he had drawn a horse and the teacher thought it was map of Maharashtra. He labeled all his drawings carefully. Now, can you see how beautifully he's written it? The content is so good. When the dictation happened, this was his work. This is already, although, address, arrange where he's written capital J for the sound of J. This is company, accident, actual, adjust. This is number 8. So here he's written adjust. Number 9, active. Now in the middle of the word, he has reversed it. Active. This is wit, active. And this is automatic. Children with dyslexia also have a problem in understanding language, where they don't understand, they take things very literally. For example, if I say that it's raining cats and dogs, in their mind, they may think that it's actually raining cats and dogs. So, for example, I'm going to read this story to you. This happened in school where one of my friends was teaching this child who has a learning disability. The story is John went for a bike ride. He rode around the block. Now, he rode around the block here means he rode around the colony. But this child thinks it's blocks, like the Lego toys. So they don't understand language so well. Comprehension is pretty poor. That is the reason they don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand when you, as a parent, will come home and see that the child has not done any work and you will say, very well done. I'm really happy. And you're actually very upset. But he doesn't understand that you're really upset because he just doesn't understand that kind of language. This is another example of a story which I did recently with a class 5 children, where I said, this is the outline, now write a story. The story was a rich man fell in bad company. Thought a plan, some apples, fresh apples. This was a story. Now this girl thought fell in bad company means an organization company. So she took it literally. Bad company means not bad friends. So this is what happens, and we need to be very careful when, you know, we are dealing with this. Sorry. I'm going to just quickly go to my last slide and check on the questions. I just hope that I was able to help with some details here and help out with some queries that you may have in your mind. I'm open to questions. Please feel free to ask me whatever doubts you have. I also wanted to share that I was going to be coming with a course for young kids who are age 10 to 14, and I will be putting the details on the website. It's a program for entrepreneurs and innovators program for children with dyslexia. In case you want to know details of it, please try and reach me and I will let you know. Priya, is there any questions that you want me to answer or take?
There are a few questions in the chat box.
Okay.
And also, ma'am, can you leave your last slide open where
Yeah.
the email ID and contact details? Parents are requesting for the same.
Yes. This is the slide of the course that I was going to share with you, which I am coming up with next month. And this is for children with learning disabilities, especially dyslexia. It's only for 10 to 14 years old. And this is my next slide. Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to ask is, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, my question is there any particular test for dyslexia?
Yes, of course there is.
What is the name of the test?
First thing you have to, okay, you are talking about the professional test. There are, there is one called C-top. That I think I should have put it a slide. C-top is comprehension test of phonological processing. CTOPP. There is DBELS. There is WIST. WIST is words identification and spelling test. There is GORT, that is Gray Oral Reading Test.
Ma'am, I know. Are you doing all this test, ma'am? Where we should go and do this test?
I don't do these tests. I'm a dyslexia therapist. I'm not an educational psychologist. An educational psychologist will be doing this test.
Okay. And this to be done as a one time or should be repeated every time? How they will come to know that which party is stronger?
If your child, says your child is in class 5 and you've done it, you'll have to redo it in class 8, 9, 10, because each education board requires that the test to be done in 3 consecutive years. You have to show the report. So not suddenly that you are going to wake up in March and say your child is in class 10, the board exams are in March, and you go in Jan and get them tested, and then you want to produce that learning disability certificate. It doesn't work like that. You have to get it tested.
Ma'am, also one more question, like you're saying all this test, this shows there is a math part also there, or this shows only English?
Yes, this calculator also, of course, it will be there.
Can be mixed, child with dyslexia will have dyscalculia also, or that is different?
Yes. It's possible that a child with dyslexia may have the other learning disabilities also, like dyscalculia, dysgraphia. I gave you the example of Baman Arani. He says he has dyslexia and he says he had dyscalculia. He could not understand numbers. He could not read the numbers. And many times, the child with dyslexia will have ADHD as well. That is attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity. But what happens with ADHD is, depends on how severe it is. So if ADHD is severe, then ADHD becomes a primary handicap.
What about their language? They will get any difficulty, means they'll give some concession or give the extra language, like difficulty in learning Hindi, all those things, because of
Yes, so
phonics
once
problems.
so once you give the certificate to your school, they will definitely, 100%, they have to provide the accommodations. Like, for example, instead of doing 3 languages, then your child will do 2 languages.
Okay.
But you
Thank
have to give the certificate. Without the certificate, it's not going to work.
Rama, here I would like to take another question. This lady is waiting. She's Richa T. You've answered part of her question already, where she wanted to learn about resources for improving reading and spelling for dyslexic kids. Also, she wanted to ask if you can give away some tips for how they can help in positioning and space problems that kids have in spellings.
Yeah, so what I do is, you get this, when you eat a mango bar or any ice cream, you get those ice cream sticks. So you take the ice cream sticks, you place it in one hand, in the left hand of the child, okay, to begin with. Because we always say, put your finger on the paper. It's very difficult. Wo finger dalna is, I've got this child and it's very difficult for them to do that. So you just take I don't have it here right now. So suppose this was the ice cream stick. You let the child hold the ice cream stick on the hand which he is not using for writing, and after every word he can place it, then write it. But this has to be practiced as a skill, not when you're teaching. So every day just practice handwriting as a skill, and the child will get it. And the second thing what you could do is, as a parent, you can put dots on the paper wherever, space it and put the dots. So suppose he has to write, I am going home. So you put a dot, you space it yourself, put a dot on the word where he should write am, going, dot, to, dot, home, dot. So he knows that, okay, wherever my mother has put the dot, that's where the words should come.
Very, very well said. So Rama, there is a question and I would like to keep the name anonymous.
Sure.
So this person wants to know how they can overcome the fear of talking to their boss when the person dealing with this boss is dyslexic.
No, I didn't understand. What does the person want to tell the boss?
The person is dyslexic, and this person has a fear of facing the boss.
Oh, you mean to say that whether he wants to disclose it to the boss that he has a learning disability?
Not that, it's just that this person is scared of facing the boss in the organization, and how he or she can, get help.
It depends on what kind of profession is he in. Because if it requires him to send emails, for instance, and he's his boss's secretary, he's going to make all sort of errors. Even with spell check, he will make errors. So he will have to disclose it at some point. Suppose he has a job where he has to read material. How is he going to manage?
Absolutely.
So I would definitely say that disclose it. Be as transparent as you can, because it doesn't help in the long run.
I hope your answer must have helped this person, and he or she can now
a couple of things also that I want to add here, especially for parents. One of the things that I forgot to mention is to maintain the reading, the reading success of a child. There is a formula for it. The reading success of a child is reading at home, reading at school, and maintaining a fabulous relationship with the teacher. If the parents can do that, because many a times I know parents will say, they come up to us and say, "Arey nahi ma'am, but ghar pe to ye bahut acha padhai karta hai," which means sometimes they, not knowingly, they sort of tell us that, "Oh, I don't trust you as a teacher. You're not probably doing the right thing for my child because he's very good at home." It doesn't work like that. The child is very different at home. The child is, remember, at home he's on one-on-one with you, whereas in class he's with 30 other kids. Even a child who's whispering next to him can distract him. Suppose he's an auditory learner. Anything, any noises, some birds chirping or a dance practice going on somewhere else is going to disturb him. And he's going to get disturbed and distracted, and he's not going to pay attention. So then it will come in the way of his learning. And that's why he lags behind in school. But at home, when the parent is sitting one-on-one in the most comfortable room and with everything on and no disturbances, it's definitely that he'll perform better. So what I'm trying to say is, please trust your teachers, that they are there and they are doing their job well.
Thank you, Rama, for all the guidance that you gave to all the parents here. And before they close the session, there is one last question that the lady is waiting with. She is Lata.
And I have one last message also, which I will share.
Sure. The question. So should I put the question first? Because this lady has been waiting for long now.
Please.
Yeah, she's saying that if a kid is having a confusion in using vowels and words, then does he or she is suffering from dyslexia?
If the kid has, the kid, it depends on how old the kid is. If he's just 6 years old, give him some more time. If he's just in class, say, kindergarten or class 1, and he still get confused with vowels, because see, the 5 vowels that are A, E, I, O, U, the children gets very confused in A, that is the E sound, and A, and A, that is I. They get very confused. So give them some time, because the more you sort of, cement this knowledge of vowels, it is going to help them. So I would suggest go slow, don't give up, keep repeating, keep teaching the vowel sounds, give them time. If by class 2 the child is not able to and is still confused, that's a red flag. Get the assessment done ASAP.
I think this is going to help the mother, and she's confirmed that yes, the child is 6 years old. And I hope she takes the course that you suggested.
Okay, now can I just share my last message?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
So this is my last message for all of you, whether even if it's Priya Darshini who's here, who's hosting the show. It's only 3 words, and that's what I keep doing and I follow, and that is called sharpen your saw, which means please keep learning. Even as a parent, I've noticed that mothers just give up very easily. They just put the entire responsibility on the school. It's not like that. And even teachers, when they enter the field of teaching, once they get a certificate, then it's done. It's not like that. You never know which kid needs what in your class. So the idea is just keep learning, upgrading your skills, do whatever you can, try to be the best in your profession, and all the very best.
Thank you so much, Rama, for coming here and helping parents and experts and everyone who joined us today with your insights and your knowledge and expertise. And I hope all of our parents had their doubts cleared and now have a proper vision on how to go about helping their child and learn about this particular situation and condition. And I hope that they can go ahead and take therapies and whatever is required for their children. And we wish to hear again from you, hopefully in the future, very soon.
Anytime you want me for question answers, I'm always there, because I know there are lots and lots of doubts in people's mind about dyslexia.
Thank you so much, Rama, for joining us. Have a great day, all of you.
Thank you, everybody.